Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the TypeGuisoft. So today I am thinking to record one video for interview questions, okay, in Java object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming topic is covered, right? So let do understand with the examples object-oriented programming, right? How does they work and what kind of question to ask in interview. First question will come, what is encapsulation, right? Or what is object-oriented programming, let's say, right? So object-oriented programming is one kind of say methodology, right, which will always present the data in the form of objects only, right? So what is object? So object is nothing which is a real world entity, right, which does exist. Like for example, anything whichever you are looking, that is object only, right? So one more question will come before starting encapsulation. What is object and class? Object and class, or what is the difference between them, right? So object is something which is real world entity which is exist, and class is something which is a logical entity. Let me tell you one thing that here in that way you can understand. Class is something which is having some kind of properties, right? So properties means some kind of identity. Let's say I'm saying like there is a one class like student, right? But student is a class, but every class will having some kind of candidate, right? That means candidate ID, candidate name, candidate mobile number, right? Candidate enrollment number, but there is no name defined on it, right? So that is a class. Actually class means something which is logical, right, where we have like some kind of property. But if any of the student will come under this class, let's say Alan is a one student, Black is a one student, right? So there comes under the objects category only. So object is something which could be fit. Let's take example of e-commerce application, like everyone using e-commerce application day to day routine, right? Any product whichever I want to buy, right, that product having some kind of identity, that comes under the class category. But real product itself, let's say I want to buy one chair, I want to buy one pen, I want to buy one mobile, so mobile itself is like one kind of object, right? So that we can understand object is something which is physical exist, and class is something which is a logically exist, right? Object can be a real world entity, class is logical entity. Object will kind of blueprint of a class. We may create n number of objects of a class, where class will having a kind of properties and behavior. Properties means variable, behavior means like methods, right? So that is a complete answer of the object-oriented object and class difference. What is encapsulation? Encapsulation word derived from the word capsule, that you can understand. Capsule. What is a capsule? Capsule is something which is having a two different medicines, right? Two different medicines are binding together, so that's the encapsulation come here. So encapsulation means like we are binding two units in a single things, right? We are binding a two different thing in a single unit. That is encapsulation. What are the two units actually? What are the two things? One is variable, one is a method. If method and variable you are binding in a single unit, that is called encapsulation. And with the help of encapsulation we do achieve kind of security mechanism. How does we achieve? That is helping with the private variable only, so that class variable will be private and the method will be public. So outside the class I can access directly the methods, cannot access the variable. So that way you can achieve the encapsulation security also, right? What is inheritance? Inheritance look like very simple, right? Parent and child. We have one parent class, one child class, that's called inheritance. We have a different type of inheritance: single label inheritance, multi-label inheritance, multiple inheritance, right? But after that a lot of question comes on it, right? How do we achieve inheritance practically? Like that way I told, right? Parent class and child class, people have a very common question, very common answer of it, right? Parent class and child class means inheritance. But how do we implement practically? So practically we do implement that in Java. Like if child class object can able to access the parent class methods or parent class property, that is inheritance, right? When the child class, please listen carefully, when the child class method, right, child class object can access its own class property as well as its parent class property, then it is called inheritance, right? We have many types of inheritance, right? That single label, multi-label, multiple, that we'll discuss as well. What is a polymorphism? Polymorph, right? That is also word from the two word poly plus morph. So poly means many, morph means form. If method will be in a many forms, right? If one method will be in many forms, polymorph, many form. One method will be in many form, that is called polymorphism. Polymorphism will be two type, compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Compile time polymorphism is called overloading, runtime polymorphism is called overriding. Right? So that is the difference, both of them, overloading and overriding. Right? There is a polymorphism. If overloading you're talking, that is again a different topic. Overloading will be in different type. Right? So in overloading we can say, like, if method will having a same method name, same return values, right, same signature, then it will come into single class, same class only. Overriding will say that if it is in a multiple class, right, multiple class means it should be from the parent and child class, right. If it is in a different class, then only that overriding will work, right. So that is the one kind of answer you can go with the polymorphism. What is abstraction? Abstraction is one of the important question, right. Abstraction is something which is saying like hiding the implementation and showing the functionality, right. So where I want to just show that functionality, we want to hide the functionality and showing that essential name of it, right. That is abstraction. So like we can do with the interface or abstract class, right. There we can write some kind of method, right, which will be abstract method. Abstract method means the method which will having a definition only, but there is this is having a declaration only but no definition. Declaration means what? Definition means what? Please understand. Declaration means the something which will having only that method signature. Definition means what? Definition means we will having a body. So body and definition both are the same. So in abstraction, right, when do we create the abstract class? That time we do create a method that will having a method declaration only, but there is no method body. That is abstract method only. If it is non-abstract method, then they have no problem, right? Next question, what is the constructor chaining in inheritance? Constructor chaining is one of the important questions. You may get that during the interview. What is the constructor chaining? So constructor chaining, as name suggests, chaining, that means we are connecting multiple constructor. So whenever we are talking about inheritance, so the answer look like very simple, parent and child class. But when you will go on implementation of it, right, there is a lot of I can say like challenging things we have on it, right? So like constructor chaining is one of the topmost question which will come in inheritance, right? So constructor chaining is something which will say that if you are calling the constructor from child class to parent class. So how to call constructor from the child class to parent class? We will use one keyword called super, right? How do we call that? Do we call using the super method only? So super is one kind of method, right? That is a predefined, that is only help you to call that parent class method, and it may be possibility you may call the current class as well, right? So for them we will use this. So constructor chaining always will perform either super or this. Super will always use to call the parent class constructor. This is used to call the current class constructor or current class method. Current class method, current class constructor, kind of that, right? So that is the constructor chaining will happen, right? From if you are calling the method child, if you are calling the constructor from child class to parent class, that is all constructor chaining only, right? What is the rule of overriding? What is the rule of overriding? So whenever we are performing overriding, right, that time we have to think about the signature only, method signature, right? Method signature. So that means what happen, right? If you are creating a method, right? If you are creating a method, that time method signature will be what? A method signature means method return values, method name and method argument, right? Method name, method return values and method argument. Sometimes we have a like access modifier also, right? So in access modifier we have a like in case of name and argument we will think okay that should be the same, but in case of return values, right, as we have seen covariant return type, right? So covariant means if parent class having a parent return values, the child can have a child return value as well. If you did not look that, I will request please watch the covariant return type. That will play a very important role to follow the rule of overriding. Same like access modifier as well. We can increase the accessibility, but we cannot decrease the accessibility, right? So these are the rule in overriding, right? Like method name, argument will be the same. In the return value, we can follow covariant return values or we can follow the same return values. Next, we have an access modifier. Access modifier also could be the same, or we can increase the accessibility, but we cannot decrease the accessibility, right? So what are the covariant return type? That is also one of the questions. So covariant return types is one of the way where the parent class method will having a like a parent kind of return values, where the child class method will having the child of return values, right? So I have given the complete, I have recorded the complete video of this covariant return type. If you did not watch it, please watch it. You will get a more clarity on it, right? Next question will come, what is the difference between final, finally and finalize? So what is a final? Final is a keyword. Finally is a one kind of block that we'll use in exception handling. Finalize is a one of the method of object class which we'll use for garbage collection. So final, we do make it something constant, then we'll use final. Finally means something which will always use in a try catch, I mean exception handling, which will always execute, and finalize is a one block which will always help you to work in a garbage collection scenario, right? So that way you can understand final, finally and finalize, right? What is the difference between static and non-static? One of the most important question, right? So we have a two type of variables, static variable and non-static variable. So what are the difference between both of them? Static are something which is depend on a class. Non-static is something which is depend on a object, right? So if you will create something static, that means that will depend on the class. Non-static is something which is depend on a object, right? So for multiple objects, if you want to share single copy, that time we will always go with the static. And if you want to share multiple copies with the multiple objects, that means I will go with the non-static variable. I will give one example here, that way you can understand. Let's say I am creating one employee or a student class, right? In a student class, we have a student ID, student name, student address, student mobile number. But one thing I want to keep it that should be common, which is the total number of student, total student, right? So total student will be common of all the student. Like suppose if one student will enter, that will reflect to all counting of all the students, right? So the total number of student, right, or total student, that will be behave as a static, and rest of that variable like ID, name, salary, that behave like a non-static. So static is something which will be common for that copy will be common for multiple variables, multiple objects, right? So here you have to understand the multiple objects. So a single copy, if it is common with multiple objects, static. Non-static means it will having a separate copy for separate object, right? What is the abstract class? Next question, what is the abstract class? Abstract class is a class which will having abstract method, right? And it will having a constructor as well, right? So abstract class is a class which will always having a abstract method, right? And it will having a non-abstract method as well, right? Both type of methods should be there. But abstract class we do use when do we when do we perform some kind of overriding mechanism, right? Like for example, if I have any abstract method, right, and if I will extend this class, extend this class to the subclass, right, that time we do use abstract, like we do override that method, right, then abstraction will come in a picture. So abstract class is a class which will having abstract method and non-abstract method, as well as it is having a constructor also. So that is a simple definition of abstract class. Next question, difference between abstract class and interface. One of the most important question of the interviews. I can say, like, if you are facing the interviews, 90%, 95% you will get this question. Difference between abstract class and interface, because they are going to use a lot in the day-to-day activity. So one difference in between abstract class and interface is that abstract class will having a constructor, interface will not having a constructor, right? And both cannot be instantiated. We cannot create object of abstract class or interface, right? And abstract class, the variable which do we create inside the abstract class, they will be non-static, non-final, whereas the variable I do create an interface, we do create an interface, that will be public, static and final, right? That means the variable which do we create under the interface cannot be modified from the child class, and the variable which I will create under the abstract class, that can be modified from the child class, right? So that is a scenario. We can say abstract class, we can go and we have a, like, we want to override, modify the value of the variable from the child to parent, modify the value in the child itself, right? We can do it. But in interface, it's not possible. Interface will always having a kind of final variables only, right? And one more difference, that abstract class can have abstract method, can have a normal method as well, right? But interface, normal means concrete method I'm talking about, which could not be abstract. But in interface, the method will be in the form of default and static method, which could be concrete method, and that is available from the Java 8 onwards, right? So that is the difference between abstract class and interface. What is the method hiding? right? What is the method hiding? Method hiding means what? If you are taking a static method, right? A static method from the parent class and child class, that time it is called method hiding. Always remember that static method cannot be overridden, right? Static method cannot be overridden. Next question, can we override constructor? Answer should be no. Override constructor, right? Answer should be no. We cannot override constructor, right? Can we overload constructor? Yes, we can overload constructor, right? Can we make constructor as a private? Can we make constructor as a private? That is also one of the question. Answer should be yes, we can make it, right? That comes under one category that I will let you know, where we do implement one kind of singleton design pattern, right? That time I will let you know. So can we make a constructor as a private? Answer should be yes. Can we overload constructor? Answer should be yes. Can we override constructor? Answer should be no. So here it should be no. Here it should be yes. Can we make constructor as a static? That much question you may get from the constructor, right? Can we make constructor as a static? Constructor as a static? Answer should be no, right? The reason is why? Because constructor can be override. Sorry, constructor, if you will make it constructor static, right? That means what happen? Constructor depend on the class, but constructor always depend on the object only. How constructor call? Constructor will call when do we create object only, right? So that's why constructor cannot be static. If I will make it static, that means it will load before the objects only, right? Now one question will come. We have a two type of memory, right? Heap memory and stack memory, right? That is a very common question. Heap memory and stack memory. That is a very common. STCK, stack memory, right? So what data will go under the heap memory and what data will go to the stack memory? So all the global variables, right, which do will create global variables. So we have a two type of variable, global variable and local variable, right? So what are the global variable? The variable which will create inside the class itself, that is a global variable. Local variable, the variable which do we create inside the method only. So all the local variable will go under the stack memory, all the global variable will go under the heap memory. So these are the difference between in case of initializing the variable, like assigning the variables, right, in a different memory, heap memory and stack memory, right? So these are the few questions which I prepared, okay, and I'm recording that for you. So whoever is looking for a job change, right, please watch it once. That will definitely help you to grow or to learn something new, okay? So yeah, thanks for watching guys. Please take care. Bye bye.